Good morning. They are running water at the Keystone Dam, so I'm going to read a little bit more. And we're starting with 18. For the graduate of this lifeway, summer is hot and winter is cold. Of course. And we feel shy when we feel shy. And we hurt when we hurt. All this is natural, ordinary, the way it is. The point Marita was making here was that people with a lot of neurotic moments tend to believe that there must be something wrong with their minds, that their minds must be operating on different psychological principles than the minds of other normal people. But they are wrong. Their main problem is that they don't recognize and accept the normal functioning of their minds. The heat makes them uncomfortable, so they focus on the discomfort rather than what needs doing. The shyness distracts them from normal social intercourse. Their efforts to make the natural feelings go away diverts them from normal everyday action. As graduates of the study of constructive living, they learn to be hot when it is hot, without any exclusive focus on their discomfort interfering with their lives. Once more, it isn't that they learn to ignore the heat. How can anyone ignore it? But the recognition becomes background to the foreground of studying or sweeping or shopping for an air conditioner. Number 19, fond foolishness. The advanced student of constructive living, looking back on past symptoms, wonder how they could have been enveloped by such foolishness. Some even feel a sort of amused nostalgia for those days of the past. But for those still caught up in a neurotic consciousness, any recollection of past symptoms brings only misery and the fear that hell will return again at any time. Number 20, page 85. Sharpening our saws. Marita pointed out the difference between the attitude of two of his students toward their neurosis. The first student was just beginning his study. He said that if only he hadn't been suffering from neurosis, he might have become a great person. The second student, advanced in his study, said that he was grateful for his neurosis because it led him to discover these fundamental principles of human living. Marita commented that he watched a sawyer sharpen his saw 3 times in one day, taking 40 minutes each time to accomplish the filing. It may seem like a waste of much time, but in reality that time was well spent. The time my students have spent suffering in neurotic misery have helped prepare them for the understanding about life that is available to them. 21. When you are suffering, don't call on Marita to rescue you. Some people try to cling to a teacher or a philosophical system to save them from their misery. Marita rejected any attempt to rely on him or his words to rescue anyone. My students learn to incorporate the principles of this enhanced lifestyle into daily living by their own efforts. It isn't Marita's life or Reynolds' life that they are living. When the suffering begins to well up, they either accept it and get on about business, or they don't. To have to stop and invoke some memorized slogan or principle shows progress, but also that there is a long way to go until graduation. When constructive activity flows naturally without seeing it as anything special or anything learned in special circumstances, then cure is complete. 22. Anyone who has bumped his shin doesn't need to be told about the pain. Anyone who hasn't can't be taught what the pain is like with words. By the time we are in our teens, we have had plenty of experience with the results of our actions. When we behaved selfishly, thoughtlessly of others, we have had the opportunity to see the results of our actions. When we have acted with consideration of others in spite of our selfish desires, there have been results for our observation. Put simply, reality has provided us with plenty of information about the results of self-centered neurotic behavior. Whether we notice the results or not is one issue. Whether we acted on our observations or not is another. We have either learned the lessons through experience or we haven't. Those who haven't learned at all are unlikely to be influenced by words. 23. The dangers of praise and scolding. Marita said that there is no need to praise oneself or others for doing what is ordinary and expectable. One of my clients remarked that this week he came out of his condominium for the first time in 3 years. My impulse is to praise him for that step, and sometimes praise slips out. But Marita was correct in objecting to such praise. Going out of one's house is ordinary behavior, unworthy of special comment. The rewards for non-neurotic behavior will be generated by reality, without the need for verbal praise, with the implied scolding, should the proper behavior cease. Similarly, reality provides natural punishment for self-limiting behavior. There is no need to scold a mature adult. One of the problems of behavior modification therapies, when thoughtlessly applied, is the danger that the client will become dependent on the artificially constructed rewards and punishments dealt out by the therapist. When the client leaves the therapy setting, there may be no carryover into everyday life. I don't want my students to associate doing well with praise from me. The doing well is reward enough in itself. 24. There is meaning in the smallest task. Ordinary people, once they get going on a task, can find some meaningfulness in it. The smallest household job, the tiniest editorial correction, the briefest mechanical adjustment, all hold some purpose. Neurotically sensitive persons may want to see some grand meaning in a task before undertaking it. They may want to know how it fits in with their overall cure or their entire future. If they cannot find some deep meaning, the task is beneath them. There must be something more important for them to be doing at the time. But they have no concrete alternative task at the moment, so they do nothing but sit and ponder what they should be doing. As a result, nothing gets done, neither large task nor small. 25. Advice on overcoming writer's block. Marita gave the following advice to a student who was having trouble writing a required paper. First, throw away any ideas about self-confidence or determination. You won't need them. Put your reading and writing materials in order on your desk. Sit down and engage in a patient staring contest with them. Several times a day for 10 to 30 minutes at a time, just sit at the desk. If you write a few lines, write them. If you open a book, read it. Keep it up every day for a few weeks. whether the writing goes well or not, whether you get into it or not, whether you like the sitting or not, do not stop. Do not let worries about courage, impatience, or confidence stop you. Marita's experience was that the students who responded quickly began writing from about the second day, and those with more resistance held out about a week before the flow of writing began. Almost any activity is more attractive than hours of staring at blank paper. The principles were clear and perfectly applicable to a variety of difficult tasks. We use behavior to keep ourselves in the situation for accomplishing the task. We sidestep the misleading efforts to try to psych ourselves up somehow. We prepare the materials. We wait for a predetermined period of time without allowing ourselves to get distracted by some other task. We keep bringing our bodies back to the task until we finish it. 26. Don't get caught up in airy philosophical debate. Keep your eye on reality. In Marita's era, as in our own, neurotic students were fond of asking deep philosophical questions. What is the purpose for my life? How can we distinguish between good and evil? How can I be sure that this task needs to be done? What are the relative influences of fate and effort in life? How can I be sure that this method will work for me? What is work? How do you define task, reality, natural? What is the exact relationship between constructive living and Buddhism, between constructive living and Christianity? It isn't that such questions have no importance. They are worthy of consideration. However, when asked by some students, they represent efforts to escape from the concrete reality of tasks at hand into drifting, unproductive speculation. During the teaching of constructive living techniques, we find it most helpful to keep referring the students back to concrete reality. Most of us know what needs to be done most of the time. Too many of us have developed intellectualizing, fantasizing skills that distract us from what we know needs doing. The experienced Marita's guide won't be pulled into preoccupation with philosophical debate. Thank you for listening.